All right, Shalom.
Shalom.
First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to
Yahweh,
Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace and salutations to the elect. All right, back at it again with another lesson. Title of this one is going to be called Taking Heed to the Words That We Speak, okay, which is a very, very important thing, especially in the times that we're living in now. The responsibility has been put on us to proclaim the words of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, and we ought to live by those words that we proclaim, lest we be hypocrites. Yahweh Shai taught about that, and so that's what's going to be the focus of the lesson. Abarat Sazah's edifying lesson. You have any open points, bro?
No. I mean, this is it's a beautiful topic, and it's something that we're constantly having to. I mean, in the words of the whole of the topic, take heed, take hold to, is knowing and proclaiming what we were speaking, and that walking in the spirit in that, and so it's constantly having that fervor to do that, because sometimes in our walk of ours, we forget, or demons get on us to where we become not necessarily double-minded, but forgetting to walk in that spirit of taking heed that, hey, we're preaching this, we're speaking this, we gotta live in that, and so you don't want to be caught out there being a hypocrite, and so we're going to start with 1 Corinthians, the 3rd chapter, starting at the 10th verse. Matter of fact, I'll start at the 9th verse. It says, "For we are laborers together with the Most High. Ye are the Most High's husbandry. Ye are the Most High's building."
Right, so we are laborers together with the Most High, building up the church. We're doing the work of the Lord, all right, adding believers unto church so that they can follow and do the same thing, okay, until we get the hell out of here, until we get delivered out of this place, Babylon, America the Great. America, which is Babylon the Great.
This is verse 10. It says, "According to the grace of the Most High, which is given unto me, as a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation."
So it says, according to the grace that's been given unto us, right? And we know that Ephesians chapter 2 and 12 talks about how we're saved through grace. All right, through grace are we saved by faith, I should say, right? And not of yourselves. Ephesians 2 and 8. It says, "For by grace are you saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of the Most High." All right, so that gift is given unto us. That gift of faith is given unto us by the grace of the Most High. Same thing that's going on right here. Okay, if you could read that verse again, bro. Sure.
It says, "According to the grace of the Most High, which is given unto me, as a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation."
Right. So what Paul is talking about here is saying, okay, the Most High has given him the gift of faith to be able to go out and proclaim the word. Okay, and he's laid that foundation of the church, so to speak. That was what he was sent to do, to preach the word unto the Gentiles. He was pretty much a forerunner, and then there was many other followers and believers that learned up under Paul and taught according to the doctrine that was introduced to the Gentile or the Israelite foreigners by Paul.
Right. Fast forward to now. We learned this thing on via YouTube and other medias through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. The truth is given to our apostles and elders, but they laid the foundation for us. Now we're able to preach with that same spirit, in the same spirit, and do lessons now and bring it out. And so we got to be mindful of that foundation that was built. And it says, "I have laid the foundation, and another buildeth thereon, but let every man take heed of how he buildeth thereupon."
Right, so we ought to what? Watch how we build. Okay, watch how we move and act and preach and carry ourselves, because like I was going into a lesson earlier, we're examples, okay, for the believers of the Lord. Of course, we know that apostles and elders are the chief examples. Really, Yahushua was the ultimate example, okay? And we all follow under that example to the best of our ability, okay? So it says, be careful how you build thereupon, because what are we doing right now? Building the spiritual temple. We're building a spiritual house, and the Lord didn't allow his house to be built any which way when you look at the first and the second temple that was built. And so it's the same thing in the spirit. There's order in the thing that's going on, this thing of ours. You know. So I don't know if you want to hear more. That's the point on that, I believe.
God, I can move to
Matthew 7.
Matthew 7.
In the meantime, let me get this real quick. First Peter chapter 2, and 5. 1 Peter 2 and 5 says, "Ye also as lively stones are built up a spiritual house and holy priesthood to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable by the Most High acceptable to the Most High by Yahushua Mashiach." All right, so there's sacrifices that are acceptable and there are sacrifices that are unacceptable. Okay, we ought not to, follow after the way of Nadab and Abihu to offer up strange fire in the presence of the Lord, man. Lest we be, burned up, lest we be punished. Okay, because an example of a strange fire would be anything that's contrary to what Yahweh Shem Yahushua set up, and He wants us to worship Him in a particular way. Okay, and so part of that is following the law, statutes, commandments, following the doctrine. Okay, not being selfish. Just all the things that the Bible that we know we ought to do. Love the Most High and keep His commandments. But all that goes back to being built up a spiritual house, holy priesthood, offering up spiritual sacrifices. Okay? It also goes back to holding that word that we said that we were going to adhere to. Instead of just only priest speaking it, we got to be doers of the word. We can get that too. Doers of the word, we got to get that out. Yeah. You want me to get Matthew 7? I'll read it.
Yeah, Matthew 7.
All right. This is Matthew chapter 7 and verse 1. Okay. It says, "Judge not that ye be not judged. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged."
That's right. And so you don't want to be out there telling one brother to do this, one brother to do that, out on highways and byways, cursing people out, telling them that they're going off if they do this and do that, but then you doing it. Because that same judgment that you putting on or speaking on, you're going to be judged that same judgment. Right?
Continuing on, it says, "And with what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you again." Same thing.
Yeah, right. I mean, you're going to be met with the same measure of which you're speaking and preaching on, So, again, we have to take heed to that and be mindful of that when we're toiling in any stage and going through our daily walk. You don't want to be seen as a hypocrite, And in coming out of the world, that's something that brothers struggle with, because you're learning, being admonished, being chastised, being built up. And so you in humbleness and meekness and in faith, you grow and you make sure that you're not doing that,
Yeah, that was it.
No, that was it. I got this in James.
Okay.
This is James chapter 1, verse 22. It says, "But be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves."
Right. So you can do. We have to do the work, man. We have to actually walk the walk and not just talk the talk. But I know brothers go into it all the time. It's more so what we do when the camera's off of us, right? Because we don't want to be actors or hypocrites. Because isn't that what the word hypocrite means?
Right.
An actor.
Yep.
Right. So.
Right. Just like you don't want to have a personal trainer telling you, man, you need to eat this, you need to eat that. You got to get up and do this.
Right.
And then, they eat pizza and they fat as hell.
Donuts, looking like Jabba the Hutt.
You ain't gonna respect that trainer, man. You gonna be like, bro, look at you, man.
Right.
How you gonna tell me about, doing this and doing that, and you look some type of way,
Is there more?
It says, "For if any be a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass, but he beholdeth himself and goeth his way, and straightway forgotteth what manner of man he was." Okay? And so we just gotta, you gotta make sure that to keep the mind and spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushua in your walk in doing that, you know, right? Because you think some of yourself in vanity, and you deceiving your own self,
right?
You know, and I'm not just speaking that shit. I'm speaking to myself on that too, man, because you got to constantly be in the mindset of growth. Okay. That's pretty much it on that.
Okay. Yeah, there's an account somewhere in the gospel where basically Yahushua told his disciples, hey, the things that the scribes and Pharisees teach, do them.
You're right.
You know, even though they don't do them, they're not teaching you the wrong thing, they're just not doing it.
Do as they say, not as they do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know if you can find it. I can pull this in Luke real quick if you want to pull it up real quick. But I'm gonna read this real quick in Luke chapter 6 is gonna go into that. Starting verse 41. It says, "And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but perceivest not the beam that is in thine own eye?" Right? And we know that that's a ancient parable that everybody talks about. You know, you see someone else's flaw, but you got a big, fat, enormous flaw that's 10 times bigger than theirs that you can't see. Because why? We have to look in the mirror, okay? And if the Most High is blinding you, you know, then that's signs that you may not be getting dealt with, man. So we have to ask and pray to Yahweh Shem Yahushua to reveal our faults unto us so that we can repent for those things and offend less, like the scriptures say. Continuing on, it says, "Either how canst thou say to thy brother, Brother, let me pull out the mote that is in thine eye, when thou thyself beholdest not the beam that is in thine own eye?" You know, it kind of reminds me of they did a bunch of like little cartoon drawings on, you know, somebody got a little splinter, you know, in their eye, and then there's a big ass like a beam. Like a beam is like to the house, for like a house. When you see like houses first being built, they put the concrete down, and them big ass blocks of wood, the big old long things of wood. You got one of them big old things in your eye. You turn, in the whole room full of wood. Got a big wood beam. That's, it's an exaggeration, okay, but the point is made there. You know, it says, "Thou hypocrite." Okay, which we brought out earlier is actor. "Cast out first the beam out of thine own eye, then shalt thou see clearly to pull out the mote that is in thy brother's eye."
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we examine ourselves first. Okay, like the scriptures say, examine yourselves whether you be in the truth. Okay, before we examine everyone else. So, did you find that out? Okay.
This is Matthew chapter 23, verse 3. It says, "All therefore whatsoever," it's like I first started verse 2, saying, "The scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do. But do not ye after their works, for they say and do not." Right? Because the scribes and Pharisees constantly pushing the law, but they were going off.
Right.
You know, they didn't have faith in Yahweh Shem Yahushua. They were really catering to the heathen at that time, which was the Romans and the Edomites.
Yeah.
Right? And they were persecuting their people as well. Okay? And it says, "For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers." Man,
hypocrites to the max, man. You know, like that's like, you got an actor. He may be in the movie he may be Superman or whatever. Jumping off buildings, fighting superheroes. But that's an actor, man. He's not really Superman. So when he goes home, he ain't doing nothing. He ain't shooting laser beams out his eyes and, Clark Kent in real life and then turning into, a superhero. That's an actor. Okay? But in the sight of the camera, in the sight of men, he's perceived to be a superhero because that's what his agenda is. So we ought not to be like that, man.
Right.
We ought to actually really be Hebrew Israelites, not actor Hebrew Israelites.
Right.
You know?
Yep. It says, But all their work they do for to be seen of men.
Yeah.
They make broad their phylacteries and enlarge the borders of their garments, and love the utmost rooms at feasts and the chief seats in the synagogues.
Right, which goes back to the customs that were held, back then, which, you had, synagogue pretty much like the church, except back then, they were actually reading the law, doing, teaching law out of Torah and things like that. The people would come up. It's the same idea though, and they would get taught, from the scriptures.
Right.
And they, the men that were in that higher authority, they really took pleasure in the fact that they were in that position. Everybody looked up to them.
Their rank.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so, and what kind of caught my eye on that was, it said Yahushua said they observe the law, but they don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so they were aware of what to do. They were aware of the prophecies. They were aware of things that that they were aware of the way of life, but they didn't walk in that way. So I got the scripture to go into that. James chapter 4, verse 17. Therefore, to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin. Okay, so we have to observe ourselves and be focused on, okay, what can we do to improve, in the sight of the Lord today? Because that goes back to the title of the lesson. Okay, taking heed into the words that we speak. Because if we know to do good, obviously we know because we're doing the work and things like that. But when it comes to being charitable and being brotherly, if we're slacking off, then that's on our behalf is a blot in the Most High's eye, man. Okay. Is that it on that?
This is on this.
Okay.
Like I said, Peter's.
Okay, yeah, pretty much on that after that.
Okay, this is 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 10. It says, as every man had received the gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of the Most High.
You get that word steward out?
God, I can't.
Yeah. So what did it say? It said, we have received the gift. Once again, that gift of faith, right? To do the things that the Lord commanded us to do, and to believe that when we do those things, and believe unto the end, we're going to be delivered and receive the inheritance of the Lord. Okay, so what we ought to do in that time, in the meantime, is to be servants. Okay, let every man esteem one another better than himself. If we paraphrase it, man. Okay, not looking at ourselves as greater men, holier than thou men type mentality, but having a humble mentality. As good stewards.
Yep, and the word steward in Greek is economos, which is a house distributor, manager, overseer.
That sounds like economy. We're overseeing the doings of the house, so to speak. It's a house manager, right?
Yeah, a house distributor.
House distributor.
Right? It says a physical agent, a treasurer, right? Figuratively, a preacher of the gospel, chamberlain, governor, steward.
Yeah, a preacher of the Lord, man.
Yeah, manager of households or household affairs. A steward, a manager, superintendent, to whom the head of the house or proprietor has entrusted the management of his affairs.
Oh my gosh. Ooh. So who's the head of the house? Ultimately, Yahushua. And he's entrusted what? The managers, the stewards, to oversee the affairs of his flock. That's the spirit. We're just kind of going into that in the other lesson. Okay, but that's what we ought to do. We have to be held to that level of accountability, okay, to do those things. And basically be men of our word. If we say we're going to do something, we have to do it.
Right. It says manager of a farm or a landed estate, an overseer. That's because when you go back to, I believe that was Corinthians, it talks about the husbandry. That's we're tending to that. Like we're planting seeds. But trying to grow the fruit and bring them in. So we're overseeing that.
Yeah, building that spiritual house.
The superintendent of the city's finances, the treasurer of the city, or treasurers of questors of kings. Okay. Metaphor: the apostles and other Christian teachers and bishops and overseers.
Right.
Okay.
And so, ultimately, a dispensation of the gospel has been given unto us to do the things that have been commanded to us.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't live our lives according to the way that we teach other people to live their lives, how should we expect people to follow us and to listen to us? And really, they're not following. I mean, they're following, okay, but they're really following the Lord. So if we're representing the Lord, but we're not doing the things that we're teaching men to do, then how do we expect the sheep or the flock or the followers or believers to follow after the way of the Lord? See, it's a double act. We have to walk the walk, man. You know, look, that's everything, right? So, hey, man, really, that's the point. I mean, you know, it's a simple concept. You know, and I brought this out, your brothers were edified. So, with that, we're gonna give all praises, honor, and glory to
Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash.
double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace and salutations to the elect. Shalom.
Shalom.